The developers decide to troll you when you pick the Revenant in Nightreign, giving you an absolute joke of a seal with 2 terrible spells as your introduction to this character. You would think you can start with at least one decent offensive spell, given that the Revenant has S-scaling in Faith of all things. Problems, however, line up, as it also seems like you do not have a great way to sustain your FP. So what do? Give up right away, just make the Revenant a purely melee character, even if it screams use spells? No. First thing to do is throw this thing away ASAP, and it's time to start making your Revenant OP. To make your day 1 great, we can make use of a Relic that gives you a powerful early game. You have multiple options here. The first option is going to be to get the Raid Calling Bell on a Relic here, even if that's all it does. It's already worth it. The Raid Calling Bell shoots off these orangey death rates, and they have excellent damage to FP ratios, and they also come with decent tracking, making sure they actually connect with your enemy, so it's very easy to hit whatever you're fighting with them. And the best thing here is that you can spam these raids without utilizing a lot of brain cells and get great results. It's an excellent pickup till you get some spells. But if the RNG gods are not on your side and you don't have this relic effect in any capacity, then alternatively you can find it in the world as well. They drop near the big gravestones like these ones. I wouldn't specifically try to get to these stones just for the bell thing, as you will fall behind, but if they're en route or you land near them, they are definitely an option to consider. But if the bell is not an option or you just don't like it, they can also do what I did at some point. Crossbows. Crossbows do not scale with anything and drop quite frequently, so as a Revenant you can use them to somewhat emulate caster or range DPS and utilize its nice baseline damage if you didn't find good spells yet, because the damage is in fact very respectable here. The multi-hit that comes from pressing the attack button can easily hit for a few hundred already, and the range aspect still stays in line with your identity and is also nice for your own safety as the squishy character that you are as a Revenant. And these crossbows hits do in fact synergize with your offhand weapon effects, like FP restoration on attacks, giving you a nice way to restore your FP for your spells from a distance. Aside from that, you can also go the route of modifying your claws, which you also start with as a Revenant, in addition to the useless seal, to give them blood loss or other status effects like frostbite or poison, for example. The claws you start out with are actually kinda decent for close range damage, and they're great at quickly reviving your allies too, so there's definitely use in keeping them around. It's also quite easy to upgrade them to purple and accordingly make them deal more damage, making them nice as a backup plan. But we want, of course, more juiciness. We don't want to just use our starting weapon. The triple Starlight Shards relic that you can buy with currency from the new Everdark bosses is not bad either for some early game FP sustain. However, it's kind of a waste as well running these type of relics, because there are just simply better ways to sustain your FP, which will become more apparent later on in the video. So bottom line here is basically, if you utilize one of your 3 relic slots with 1 or more relic effects to give you more early game power, that then in turn will skill you properly into day 2 and day 3 and make your Revenant feel actually good to use. It's like using Surfshark to make yourself invincible. Surfshark is a VPN, which is a type of service that protects its users by encrypting their data and masking their IP address, leaving their digital footprint untraceable, and you can also change your location to many different places on Earth. Okay, nice live story, right? Surfshark has sponsored this video, so thanks to them for that. But why would you want to use such a thing, right? Well, many reasons. For example, combating price discrimination based on your location, or bypassing geo-restricted services or sites so you can, for example, watch your favorite series that would otherwise not be available to your location, or just to simply make sure that you're anonymous while browsing the internet to avoid potential unwanted usage of your data and personal information as the result of, for example, data breaches or hackers. Aside from Surfshark as a VPN, they also provide other services like their antivirus software, which you might want to check out as well if you want to protect your actual hardware too. So definitely check Surfshark out, with them providing a 30-day money-back guarantee if you decide that's not for you. So what are you waiting for? Check my link in the description. Regarding other relic effects then, there are 2 guaranteed relic drops that can add a lot of power to your Revenant here, and I would highly recommend them. The first one is going to be the old portrait from finishing your Revenant's Remembrance quest, which is a very good relic, and it's the reason why you went to get her Remembrance done ASAP. This relic hyper buffs your ult, make it do a bunch of AoE damage, which means it can proc your passive to raise summons to fight for you very easily, but it also fills up your ult charge faster for more frequent use, and it then also fully heals your teammates and your summon. The ult as a product of this relic now becomes a lot better, because your ult also inherently already gives you invincibility for some seconds. So it's a lot of sustain in addition to the already mentioned effect, and you can either go berserk in those seconds without worrying about HP, or just use it as a guarantee to clutch out the fight. And then on top of that, it can also instantly revive downed enemies, even with 3 bars. So if there's one relic you want to run while not wanting to rely on RNG, it is definitely this one. You really can't go wrong with it, and it's always going to be useful. The second guaranteed relic drop that I would then advise to use is this one. All 3 effects here are going to be great for your Revenant. You can get this one after defeating the Night Lord, but you might not have done that yet, or see that as the ultimate goal. So in that case, it's good to keep the effects on this relic in mind, and in particular these two: the Stone Sword key at the start, which gives you the potential to get a quick Evergil clear and thus a bunch of runes, and also the higher rune acquisition relic effect, which means faster leveling up. And that's basically what you really need with your Revenant. You just want to be ahead of the curve. So even just considering these 2 relics that you can get guaranteed, you already will have a really good setup for your Revenant. For your final relic effects then, I would highly suggest to get something that makes your FP usage better. The earlier mentioned Starlight Shards is okay, but not great, as it's a temporary fix and you can get them in game quite easily. Better things are going to be the things that permanently increase your FP. For this purpose, I would get the FP increasing relic effect for when you clear the mage towers, or the permanent extra FP that you can get from equipping 3+ seals, as it's very easy to get to 3 seals. Just opening one of those boxes already gives you usually 2 or 3, and it gives also a reason to keep your bad starter seal for a little bit of time to quickly get to those 3 seals. Either options here are great, as you can see with the actual percentages on screen. If you don't have these or you can't get them, then a guaranteed relic that can help out here as a third option is the Knight of the Wise from defeating the Sentient Past for more FP too. But this one also gives your claws poison and an associated attack buff when you proc set poison, which is nice for the earlier mentioned backup plan that revolves around your claws. So all around guaranteed usefulness with this relic as well. If you are certain that you will clear or have the chance to clear multiple Evergils, then the fact that increases your attack power per cleared Evergil is another nice one to have, as it will also scale your spell damage. Outside of the 2 already exclusive Revenant relic effects that I mentioned worth running, you will also have these 2 exclusive effects that can roll on relics. Both are not bad to consider either. The one at the top isn't that amazing though, all things considered, as the bonuses for Helen and Sebastian are just kinda mediocre. The effect for Frederick is quite nice though, but generally speaking won't make or break a run. The 25% extra damage from the other effect for 30 seconds after using your ult is worth mentioning too, if you still have room for it to roll somewhere. So with that then, I think we have discussed all the things you want to aim for relics wise, both guaranteed stuff as well as RNG dependent rolls. Subscribe with that mind-boggling information in mind if you haven't done so yet, and let's continue, because we're definitely not done yet and you definitely do not want to miss out on the following things. The summons you get as your character skill as a Revenant are okay. They are not crazy damage, but they can function very well as support and provide you some utility. I would highly prio using Sebastian and Frederick here. Frederick is great in single target fights and is your most all-round summon due to the decent damage and being able to stick onto the target. His whirlwind type of smash does pack a punch as well, and he can build up poise damage quite consistently as well. While Sebastian is better in fights versus multiple targets due to his shout that staggers simply everything caught in the shout, and he comes with huge range as well. His beam is very nice in fights where you just want to park him at a safer spot, and the beam can then accordingly still hit your target from a very huge distance and do proper damage. Sebastian's hits with his actual hands also have a lot of poise damage to them, making him a good option for stance breaking in the more confined arenas. Frederick is a lot more mobile though compared to Sebastian, and that's the trade-off between these 2 summons. Helen is not so great, very squishy, short attack range, and it's just lackluster compared to the other 2, which are already not, the strongest things in the world. This summon is not bad though for putting it on dying allies, as she does hit quickly in succession. And with that, the use case mostly then limits itself to opportunities where your target can't hit back and is being stationary, for example by being stance broken and you just want to get guaranteed hits in rapidly. In those use cases, Helen can definitely add some value to the team. For how to utilize these summons in terms of positioning then, I would always park your enemy, so the target, between you and and your summon. So it has to go through the maximum amount of effort and time to switch targets, but also to provide you the potential to backstab and get some juicy critical damage in when it's focusing your summon. One final thing regarding your summons here is that you then can micromanage them by despawning them. If for example a huge AoE attack is imminent or they're stuck in a damaging force like this and you want to save your summon's fate, then you can do that by despawning them. And afterwards you can simply resummon them again when the situation is safe again. Adding this micromanagement to your gameplay loop can help out a lot in the survivability of your summons. Now all of that is nice and great, right? But we want those juicy spells, or at least something that makes good use of our S, scaling and fate right here. And how do we do that? Well, we already went over how to start your runs without relying on spells yet. But after that we need to, scale properly, as for example, the raid calling bell has no scaling, and we need to maximize our chances of getting actual useful spells, and we do that by going to the places on the map with the easiest access to seals that come with said spells. It is very simple really. After you clear your first map to get a quick level 2, it is time to highly prio the cathedrals around the map, as well as the hidden cabins. Regarding cathedrals, there are a few variations. There's the variation where there's a hole in the middle of it, which is generally going to be your best version, as you can quickly go down, check out the seals there, and across the spot with the seals will be a boss that will frequently also drop a seal. And this boss is very easily killable and also soloable in trios that you can quickly get rid of. So you have the potential to get multiple good seals in quick succession like this. And in Nightreign you can use both of them at the same time, because you can cast from the catalyst in your left hand as well as in your right hand. The other version of the cathedral is where the seal will be next to the boss fight, which is a nice version as well, as you can quickly check if there's a good seal drop there. And then there's another version of these cathedrals, usually with the guardian golem, where the seals will instead be on the top of the cathedral, which is kind of also the annoying one, as you have to climb a lot, and out of the 3 versions, that one is the least preferable in my opinion. These cathedrals, however, are all very low level structures, so you want to target them early on in day 1 and try to get your first upgrade with them as soon as possible. Furthermore, you'll also sometimes land near these small cabin type of structures or find them all running, so if the game spawns you near one of them, then you can quickly get a seal like that right away, and usually the mobs here will also get you to level 2 as well. Okay, so those structures are what you want to target early day 1, and these are generally just good low level structures to clear at say level 2, 3, 4 anyways, so your team will all benefit from it, and you will more often than not get a first decent upgrade, and preferably a blue upgrade. I would also give a huge shout to do at least 1 mage tower, and potentially more if you have the relic effect that increases your FP based on clearing these. These towers are ridden with starlight shards, which are the equivalent of FP flasks basically in this game, and even doing just 1 tower can already fill you up for the remainder of the run with these things. And these towers are easy to unlock, and at the top you also have the potential to get something very useful as a Fate caster here, so there's no real reason to skip them. Aside from starlight shards from these towers, you can also get a bunch from the merchants for cheap, so keep in mind to check them out as well. To finish off day 1 then, we do the following. Do definitely the boss at the bottom of the castle in the middle. This is a guaranteed purple drop, and when you move up you get a guaranteed talisman as well, which can be really good. If you then still have the time, you can also start clearing the upper parts of the castle, which is juicy XP. If you're running with teammates that also want to aim for clearing Evergils as indicated by their relics, then doing those is also a very viable strategy to quickly level up in day 1 and day 2 and get those buffs from the Evergil clearing relic effect, which does in fact stack with each new Evergil that you clear, so the more the better. Like mentioned in the relic section, you can get these effects through RNG, but also through the currency as obtained from defeating the Everdark boss. You can also buy a relic which has both a stone sword key as well as the Evergil clearing buff in 1 relic. Can be useful, but the third relic effect here is not that great. I would say this is mostly a strategy if you're playing with premates though and can communicate this, as with randoms you might not really have the option to get the message across to really strategize for Evergil clearing, or because they're just not running any relic effects for it. At day 2 then you want to really focus the higher level content to make sure you keep scaling or leveling your mage here properly. So either finish up the castle, do the boss at the top, or do the elite boss fights as indicated with these icons on the map, the blue monster with a red outline, or do the shifting earth event if you have one present. These 3 will always be the best option for day 2. Not only do you get a ton of XP, but you also get a bunch of boons and the higher rarity chest or whatever these things are. Ultimately doing this, you can easily reach level 13, 14 or even the max level 15 when you reach the final boss, and those level ranges are great to be at when fighting the day 3 boss. And at day 3, you can then always buy 2 more starlight Starlight Shards and instruct your team to buy them for you as well if you didn't have enough yet. If you are with randoms, then they might already give you some of these shards if they know about the Revenant's FP sustain, or you could just try to signal them with your emotes and, you know, really deliver them the message to buy you a pair, and of course afterwards give them a thank you. But as you see, there are a bunch of different ways that you can really make sure that you have no problems whatsoever maintaining your FP as a Revenant. And in general, you also have plenty of sites of grace in the game to refill your FP too, and you can always just walk past these when you are out of FP. Which then brings me to the next topic. Spells and which ones you actually want to use. So like in my Recluse video, I'm going to go over a selection of good options. And we're going to start out with the trifecta of FP efficient, scalable spells that can carry you and your team. And as the list then continues, we will transition into choices that you might haven't tried yet. Number 1 on the list, Discus of Light. The most FP efficient spell in the entire game and comes with great holy DPS, is highly spammable, great range, just has everything you need essentially for a clear win. Number 2, Lightning Spear. Drops very frequently, great range. The projectile has no drop off while traveling, so you can really target enemies. Great lightning damage, and you can charge it up for even more damage, and with that it also synergizes with the damage boons and talismans that increase charged incantations damage specifically. Number 3, Black Flame. Your to-go fire spell. Again, very FP efficient, good DPS and range, and has that Black Flame sap mechanic, which is based on your enemy's HP rather than your gear, so even on a baseline level it will always function well, and it can also be charged. Number 4 then, and now we're heading into my personal favorites, the less obvious ones, Stone of Garank. I use this one mostly while playing in Recluse, but it's actually much better as a Revenant due to the anti-synergy with the Recluse, with this spell not having an element to apply a residue on your enemies to then draw FP with. Stone of Garank is just a great incantation with a lot of range, a great hitbox for saturating a lot of contact points due to the projectile being pretty big, and it's also one of those spells with a lot of poise damage. It's essentially the great oracular bubble of the incantations, but in turn it also travels much faster. The reason it doesn't apply an element is because it's considered physical damage, which then also means you can also buff it with things like Exalted Flesh, which drop all over the map to get even more value out of the spell. Number 5 then, Dragonclaw. Dragonclaw is great here like in the base game, where it mostly was great in the early game and eventually gets outclassed by Dragon Maw, but in the scenarios of Nightreign it works out better, I would say, due to it having a 2-hit aspect. You can trigger the input mid-cast to get another hit, and while you do so, you can change the direction of your character mid-air based on what your enemy is doing, and thus it adapts very well to the scenarios of Nightreign, where for example enemies can start to target your allies instead of you, moving out of your range. And it then comes with deceivingly more range than you think, with it also launching your character forward, with also a decent amount of hyper armor, especially between the first hit and the second hit, so all around a spell that will provide to be useful in many scenarios. Like number 6, Frenzied Burst. Now Frenzied Burst is a very stable spell in the original Elden Ring, but it's still a very consistent source of damage here as well. Its main draw is its absolutely crazy range. It can target enemies and bosses at the other side of the arena really. I think it's in fact the spell with the biggest range in the game that is also still easy to hit with, as it just shoots off a beam in a straight line. And you can charge these beams as well, overall dealing quite some good damage per cast, and it might just be one of my favorite incantations in this version of the game. Number 7 then, Triple Rings of Light. Same idea as the Discus of Light, but a lot less FP efficient. However, in turn you get a lot more area coverage, so it might make it easier to hit targets depending on the fight, and it's still very spammable. Number 8, Black Blade. A spell that can prove to be very useful as it cuts off a part of the enemy's HP bar and also comes with good burst as well per cast. And it then also has that same HP sap mechanic like the Black Flame, gradually dealing more damage in the span of a few seconds. Number 9, the Dragon Breaths. Not so efficient spells in terms of FP, definitely not. But the burst is there, meaning if you're loaded on Starlight Shards and have been getting your FP bar up to par, then these spells can provide to be very deadly for you. Magic here hits the hardest, but the Cold one can inflict Frostbite, which is a lot of value. Fire then also still hits very hard, and you have the ones that inflict Scarlet Rot too, meaning you have plenty of options here. Number 10. Burno Flame. If you can get this spell to drop, then it's probably the best incantation that can hyper carry many fights. Many beams here that spew fire that all deal good damage, and cumulatively speaking will rake up in damage. Problem here is however that the goodness of the spell is also reflected in its drop rate, so you won't get it often. It drops rarely, but if you do get it, well, it's a nuke and it staggers a lot as well. A bonus shout out to Catch Flame and its harder hitting brother O-Flame. Both great spells in melee range that work out very well with the Revenant's claws that you can chain cast very efficiently as well for great damage, and each cast here comes out fast so you can quickly adapt to the situation. Basically the carrion slicer of the Incantations. And with that we have discussed spells. Now of course you can also utilize weapons that have hard fate scaling, like the Cypher Pata or the Coded Sword, which both have S scaling in faith. There are quite some options in the weapons department, and the general rule is that if the AoE comes in the form of holy damage, it can at least deal decent faith scale damage through that way, even if the weapon doesn't have great scaling with faith. Same thing for fire damage too, but I would say that weapons will be mostly your backup plan, and that it's generally better to just focus on spells, because all seals, which you will always use to cast incantations, will in fact have an S scaling in faith. So in terms of having the right setup here, you can never go wrong with spells. Ultimately, I made another video on how to be a powerful mage every round in Nightreign, which will also give you a lot of additional information, like for example about walking effects and relevant boons for mages, because ultimately the Revenant here is also a mage, just one that utilizes summons and faith in addition. So if you want to load up your brains with even more relevant information, then check that video out right now too. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.